I'm Gary Birtles, one of the old gits from a long time ago. You've got to tune into Tricky Talks, I believe, so just do it. All the best.
Robertson, the first time we've seen them attack them, and there's Francis! Well, that's what I wanted to see Robertson do. And still Robertson, getting his shot in, and a goal! Robertson!
Hello, welcome along to the Tricky Talks podcast. Forest move ever closer to Premier League safety with a 4-1 win over Burnley. We'll unpack the win, the tactical changes and focus on a certain central midfielder before looking forward to a trip to Sunderland this coming Friday. Joining me, as always, are three voices you know and love. So hello again, first of all, to you, Chelsea.
Hello, hello. I feel like I've been waiting for a very big chunk of the season to feel this way about what we're in now, so I'm looking forward to getting started.
Excellent. And Katie's here as always. Are you feeling as happy as Chelsea looks?
I am, yeah. It was brilliant in the end, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And last but not least, Murillo, who's giving viewers a real close-up of his eyeballs at the moment.
I was just fetching some apologies. Yeah, never in doubt.
Yeah, if only they could see your face at the time. Those on YouTube and Spotify now, I believe. We go in video on Spotify also, hopefully. So if everything works out, we don't have any technical issues. So yeah, I mean, let's get cracking on to the game then. Obviously, the old cliche comes out to play, and it was certainly a game of two halves, wasn't it? And I know you, Chelsea, missed most of at least the first half because you were working. And to be honest with you, that was probably the best first half you could ever have wished to miss, if I'm honest with you, because it was absolutely dire, wasn't it? But where did you pick it up, the game, when you managed to catch up, Chelsea? What was the score?
I actually missed the whole thing.
Oh, the whole thing.
Absolutely gutted. I ended up, I missed the whole thing because of work, so I was absolutely devastated. But I have found that when I do miss the game, we actually win. So I'm taking that as like a bit of a weird omen that is happening. So I mean, I'll take it. I mean, I wish I could actually sit there and watch one properly. But, I mean, the highlights was enough for me. I felt like I was just living it vicariously. I was looking when I was at work and I saw that we were 1-0 down and I was like, typical that we played Burnley, typical that we're 1-0 down, we're going to throw away 3 points in this game. And I was, a bit effing and jeffing in my head to myself. And then as I was casually looking, it was 1-1. Oh, brilliant. And Dad was texting me and then it was 2-1. 3, and then here comes the fourth. So yeah, I got to see all what I saw in the highlights, so I'm just absolutely ecstatic with the result.
Yeah, like I said, Kate, it was one of those first halves where it's not going to stick in the memory banks for too long, is it? Because I don't recall Forest having one single effort on target, neither did Burnley until right at the end, and it was just a poor first half from both teams, to be fair.
I think emotionally during that game, I relegated us, and then we were safe, and then we won the Europa League by the end. Like, emotionally, that's how it felt. Like, at half-time, you were just like, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. This is classic Forest. And then you were like, oh, a little bit of hope. And then you were like, yeah, we've totally got this. Then you were just like, we're going to Istanbul. So, yeah, it was a usual, Forest roller coaster. But I was talking to a friend in the NAV before the game, and he was doing the thing that we spoke a little bit about on the pod, and that a lot of people have spoken about, how this is the perfect game for Forest to mess up. And, he was absolutely convinced that was what was going to happen. And then as the conversation we went on to Morgan Gibbs-White and Marinakis and all of that, and I was saying how important he is and how important keeping him was. So at the end of the game, I was able to send him like a really smug message and say, you should always listen to me. I know what I'm talking about. So yeah, that was quite nice. But I mean, yeah, absolutely. The first half was a shambles, but it fades very quickly, doesn't it? When, you get a hat trick and then that absolute icing on the cake goal from Jesus at the end. So yeah, I think we just leave the first 60 minutes where they belong, and we'll just talk about that, shall we?
Yeah, I mean, let's pick it up from half-time, Molly, because that seemed to make the difference, didn't it, in terms of bringing Jesus on for Bakwa. Enough said about him, the better, because he didn't take advantage of an opportunity to replace Callum Hudson-Odoi, and we'll come on to that later in the show. But Jesus came on and Gibbs-White moved left-ish. I don't think he played quite left wing, but he was kind of left inside midfield type of position. Did that make all the difference, do you think, Mollo, in terms of giving them a bit of a kickstart into the second half, or was there more to it, do you think?
I think two sides to everything, isn't there? First of all, it was really clear from about very early on, but certainly within the first half hour, that Burnley were going to run themselves into the ground to try and stop us scoring. We felt, I mean, it sounds bizarre, but even at half-time we were saying that was, attacking-wise, probably our weakest first half of the season, but we hadn't created a single chance. I think we had a cross that went too high for Chris Wood, was about as close as it came. But the general feeling was Burnley was struggling anyway against us, if that makes sense. And it was just a case of would our quality show through. And in some ways, we've seen that so many times. And the fear was that we need to create lots of chances before we make that quality show in the scoreline, but it was quite the opposite. And I think the changes helped because clearly, you know, Back was shown signs lately that there's a player in there, but in front of, you know, nearly 30,000 people, he just didn't quite have it. And the first time he made a mistake, you could hear the groans, and you just knew in his first corner, you thought, has he got the minerals? And so far, not yet. But the change made all the difference. The shape was, it reminded me a little bit of kind of when we had the promotion team that was a bit lopsided, in that we were very much right-hand sided because obviously Gibbs-White can be everywhere because he's a class player. But his natural instinct was also, when the ball wasn't on his side of the pitch, to get involved in the middle and sort of that inside left position. And it worked an absolute treat, didn't it? Their defence tired and we punished them. I think I'm right in saying 4 out of 5 good chances on the day as well, which is something we haven't done for a good while. So it was really, really promising. And one thing I'm going to say, it's easy to be wise after the event, and you know, saying it at half time that we said, you know, we just got to be patient, blah blah blah. But what staggers me, you get home and you listen to everything and you flick through the comments online, but then as you scroll down, you see half time comments and you think, who are these people? Do they not understand a game is 90 minutes long minimum? I know you can lose the game by half time, but if you're 3 or 4 down, but the game isn't over at half time, and it always had the feel that our quality should shine through. Granted, there's plenty of times when it hasn't over the season, but it did. I'm sure we'll get onto it. Gibbs-White's finishing was absolutely mustard. I think he had 4 chances and scored 3 of them, if my memory's correct. All really crisp finishes, I'm sure, again, we'll look at. But it was the quality when we needed it was there. It was not out of the woods yet, I know that, and there's still a long way to go, but that last sort of 30, 35 minutes was class. And I didn't realise was it a 14-minute hat-trick with 3 goals or something? Yeah. But aside from their goal, which never was a threat, 2 weird things happened together which never normally happen. For the first time in probably 2 years, Milenkovic completely spooned a header, 50 pence it sideways, and then for some reason an easy shot to save, Sells, it went straight through him. And those 2 things happening at the same time is so rare. It was the only way Burnley were going to get a goal. And, you know, it was never in doubt once we equalised, was it? Apart from the stupid VAR, I was a bit worried because we were right in line with it. I hadn't realised it came off a Burnley head initially. So I was thinking, oh no, please don't be offside. But thankfully it wasn't.
What do you make of Pereira, Chelsea? Because, you know, he came in short-term, 18-month appointment. We weren't really sure what to expect. He doesn't stay in any one place for too long, but he started to gradually win fans over, and the squad have adapted to what he wants. And the thing that's standing out for me, he's not afraid to make changes. I know he missed the game, but he made a couple of changes at half-time, as we've talked to, that perhaps you wouldn't have seen under the previous manager. So what are you making of Pereira overall? Are you content with the way he's managing the team? And I think all things considered right now, he's probably going to be in post for next season as well, barring some dramatic turnaround. But what do you make of Pereira?
I was really unsure at first. I think just the pure hurt of everything, with all the mess that we've had with every manager that we've seemed to have had over the last however many months. Very unsure, but I had no expectations. I think with what happened with Dyche, I was like, oh my God, miracle's going to happen. Dyche is going to come in, sort us all out. Absolutely not. So no expectations from him at all, and I think that was probably best. One thing that I have found with is that he's actually come in and the togetherness seems to be back. And that is what has been lacking for so much. And how many times throughout all the seasons Forest have said, you know, like it was all the hashtag together, you know, us being like one big family, and we lost that. And I do feel like he's brought that back. And I did see a clip on one of the highlights, as that was when Gibbs-White came off, and how he got his head, like Gibbs-White's head round him and stuff. And I thought, yeah, that's right. That's exactly what we need. And he reminds me a bit of a blend between Steve Cooper and Nuno, weirdly. He's like got the passion of Nuno and, you know, being able to be a bit more like, you know, tactically savvy, whereas he's got the togetherness and the family orientation that we had with Cooper. And I just feel like that marriage of personalities together is what we need out of a manager at the moment. And, I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a lot better substitution maker than Nuno ever was. Let's just put that out there. But, it just seems to be working. You know, everything's slotting together and it all just seems to just be happening. And I'm not going to lie, I didn't think it was going to. I had prepared myself for relegation. I really had. And I know that we're not out of the woods yet, but they're lifting and we're not in that place what we were anymore. And Pereira, you got to give him a huge amount of credit for that.
And of course, he's overseen a 7-game unbeaten run now, and being in that position, Kate, hasn't he? And who would have said that several weeks and months ago? It's setting them well for the end of the season. But the thing that stands out for me as well, he's not afraid to make tactical changes either. He recognised Bakwa wasn't working and had no hesitation in making that change, whereas the previous manager perhaps would have held on for a bit longer.
You know, I can't decide whether that is tactical genius or just a gamble that keeps paying off. Because not Bakwa, always take Bakwa off for me. I'm happy with that. But just in general, you know, he's praised a lot in the media for being brave and making changes. I can absolutely see at the moment that these are game-changing changes and it's absolutely working. But you could also see on the flip side that if Denmark being a perfect example of that, if it hadn't worked, then you open yourself up for an awful lot of criticism, do you? And I suppose at the moment it feels like he is a genius. You know, like you say, 7-game unbeaten run. You know, he's got the so-called second string, some of them starting to perform. In Morgan Gibbs-White's post-match interview, he described his position as a left 10. And I was like, that sounds more like a shoe size than a football position to me, but maybe that's just my naivety. I was like, it's just left wing, is it not? What, left 10? Does that mean that Jesus was a right 10? I don't understand. But, you know, they obviously do. And certainly on Sunday, that tactical change was dramatic impact. And I do think, you know, we spoke briefly about which players maybe did improve under Dyche, and we already had an absolute baller in Morgan Gibbs-White, but he's even better under Pereira. Is it 7 goals he scored since Pereira came in? I think that's right, which is, you know, good. And there does seem to be that relationship, like Chelsea was saying, and there's the picture also doing the rounds on social media of him doing the, you know, the worship thing, isn't there, for Morgan, which is, again, it's lovely to see, and it absolutely creates that atmosphere and that perspective that we want when we think about our team. So at the moment, I am sticking on the side of genius. If he is still our boss come next season, when we're not in this position where it's really worth gambling on things, it will be interesting to see if those kind of changes and those kind of risks continue to be taken, or if he does have a bit of a different approach.
You mentioned Morgan Gibbs-White, and that is somebody I do want to spend a bit of time talking about, because you have to, given the form that he's in at the moment and the goals that he scored. it seems to me that he's almost carrying the team at the moment, isn't he, Mollo, with his goals especially, but in addition to his performances. So we've talked about our survival depends a lot on the back five staying together, and it would only take 1 or 2 injuries to disrupt that. But Gibbs-White is coming into that conversation now, isn't he, in terms of being a key person to drive the club upwards towards safety?
Absolutely. You've used the word there, drive. He drives us forward. He's been the main man attacking-wise for the last 4 years, hasn't he? But we're a team built on defensive stability, so sometimes his importance can be overlooked, particularly when he's having an off game. Now, as I keep banging on about this, when Morgan Gibbs-White has an off day and maybe gives the ball away a bit too much or whatever, you're still getting unbelievable work rate out of him. He's not the typical luxury player of that number 10 who sort of glides about the place looking great on a good day and might as well not be there on a bad day. He puts in the work, and that's why he was able to play as that kind of second 10 on, coming in from the left on Sunday, because he's
or a left
football.
10.
Yeah, I get what they're saying. It's almost like a German thing, wasn't it, with the 2 number 10s? Because Jesus did a great job of it.
It was just, for goodness sake.
Left 10.5, but slightly lopsided right hand side. But he gives us a kind of balance, but also he's just such an intelligent player, and he absolutely, we don't know what's gone on behind the scenes and off the pitch and all this malarkey in detail. But what we do know is on the pitch, he has been an absolute first-class captain all season. And anybody who doubts that isn't watching Forest very closely, because yes, he leads by example massively, but he doesn't just lead by example by putting his foot in and all this, that and the other. When things aren't necessarily going well, which, let's be fair, at that point on Sunday they weren't, he drags us back into it with his quality, his power of running, his taking up space. And he does that thing, doesn't he? And his real kind of USP characteristic, if you like, is the way he receives the ball on the half turn, anywhere, under pressure, and gets us going in the right direction. And those kind of players are priceless, and certainly worth a lot more than 60 million. And how much the Tottenham wish they'd stumped up 70 or 80 now, I wonder. But let's not have that conversation till the end of the season. He's been immense in his own way all season. When he had that little spell when he wasn't at his best, I think you can look back, and on here we were saying, yes, but, and that was the thing, isn't he? He still gives everything. And you've nailed it. He is the man dragging us forward as much as anyone. Everybody else is playing their part, but he's the catalyst, isn't he? He's the spark that ignites it, and that was all a big. Our season in a microcosm on Sunday, wasn't it? In a sense.
I see. Last week, Chelsea had a bee in my bonnet around Murillo. I don't know whether you weren't on the show, unfortunately, because you were working, and I don't know whether you've listened back. But I had a real bee in my bonnet about Murillo. For reasons I won't go into now, you have to go back and listen. But my bee in the bonnet this week is around the England manager, because on the way Morgan, I nearly said Gorban Gibbs-White, but the way he's playing at the moment, he's got to be on the plane to the US, surely, for the World Cup. I can't see why the England manager is not picking him in the squad. He's the top English goal scorer in the league. I think I saw a stat earlier, he's got, 12 goals, I think. Let me just have a look. He's got 12 league goals.
12 league goals.
To Danny Welbeck, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yep.
12 league goals. Morgan Rogers, Cole Palmer have got 9. Dewsbury Hall and Phil Foden have got 7. He's playing much better than Cole Palmer and Phil Foden are at the moment. Yet they continue to remain in the squad ahead of Gibbs-White, and I just can't understand why he's not being picked. However, I would say and Wayne Rooney on Match of the Day on Sunday was of the opinion he's still not going to get in the squad, but surely Chelsea must do if he continues to play like that.
This is the thing we saw it with Southgate, and now we're seeing it with Tuchel as well. They have their favourites, and they'll argue that they don't, and they'll say, "Oh no, they do. They 100% do." Like, let's just take like in squad. How can Gibbs-White perform the way that he does? He's in his prime. He bangs out a hat-trick in 14 minutes. That stat that he had where he ended up covering 15.8k in one game. How can anyone with a brain cell not see that he is fit for the England squad? It's like, come on now. But to be fair, I'm getting to that point where I think Gibbs-White could wipe his backside and still wouldn't be able to get into the England squad. That's how I feel right now, because what more has he got to do as an individual? He gives 150% every single game, and he still can't get in the England squad. And I've got no idea, absolutely no idea. Like you said, like even with Palmer, look at him compared to Palmer at the minute. How there is, it's like, are you okay? Can you not see what's going on? Have you like watched any of it? So I'm with you, Simon. I've got a real big bee in my bonnet with Tuchel as well. I just don't know what more he's got to do. I did find though, and I don't know whether any of you agree with this, when he was dropped from the squad before, I felt like the pressure was off him and he allowed him to play even better for Forest. I don't know whether anyone else noticed that. So if Forest are getting the best out of him, he stays at home with us. Tuchel, if you don't want him, don't care. He's with us, and that's all that matters.
I mean, you look at Cole Palmer and Phil Foden, who are stalwarts for playing for England in previous tournaments. Their form this season has left a lot to be desired. Even tonight, as we record, Cole Palmer's still, yet again, he's injured. He can't stay fit this season. Phil Foden's dropped off the radar, and you know that from being a top-notch fantasy player last year. He's dropped off the radar this year because he's just not scoring. It's a difficult one to understand, isn't it? I know we are biased as Forest fans, but surely some common sense has got to play a bit somewhere.
You would think so, wouldn't you? You're naming these players, and people say there's an awful lot of competition for that position. But when you look at the stats, is there really that much competition? Because, like you say, Phil Foden, Cole Palmer, they've been represented at tournaments before. Did we win? No. So, let's, give the guy a chance. He is in absolutely sparkling form. And one of the things that was always levelled at him previously, both with regards to being in the England squad and also with regards to being an elite Premier League player, was that he doesn't score enough goals. That was what everybody said. Well, that's been sorted, and he is now, as you said, level at being the top English goal scorer in the league. There is nothing more that the man can do, apart from possibly stick on a Liverpool shirt, okay, which none of us want him to do. But if you're honest, you say we're biased as Forest fans. I don't think that's where the bias comes in. So, as far as I'm concerned, there is absolutely no argument against Morgan Gibbs-White being on that plane. And I can't see his form dropping off in the next 5 games. So, yeah, I absolutely hope, for his sake, because he's earned it, that he gets that call-up. Although, realistically, I'm not going to be surprised if he doesn't.
Can you imagine if he gets called up and just goes, no thanks?
He wouldn't do that. No. He wouldn't do that.
Can you imagine? No, don't want it now. So you've had your chance.
Do you know what though? I think there is one thing I have to disagree with on there with Kate is it's not the next 5 games; it's the next 8 games. Okay?
Yes, sorry, 7 or 8.
But the other to flip it slightly, and I'm not suggesting I fully agree with this, but Sunday might have given him something else to think about. I think, if we're honest, I love Morgan, and to me he's the best number 10 in the Premier League at the moment by a distance, but he's not better than Bellingham. Bellingham's world class. Bellingham is the first choice shoe-in number 10 when he's fit. I think anybody who watches football would agree with that. The issue is, who is the next man up? And I think because no one is replacing Bellingham while he's fit, it's just an injury replacement. My personal opinion is he wants somebody who can play another position, ideally wide. I think that's why he's looking at those two we've mentioned, but I think the guy who will probably get the nod stands might well be Eze, because he's such a good wide player and he's coming into form as well. However, what no one has thought about before the England setup is if we need somebody playing off the left-hand side. Tuchel, he's not an idiot. He's obviously been a top manager, and whilst I absolutely disagree with him not picking Gibbs-White for the 32-man squad or whatever it was, since then he's got to have pushed himself above the other number 10s currently playing in the Premier League. It's just a case of As Tuchel going to look at it and think, actually, Gibbs-White could be my backup 10, but he could also be an option to do a job out wide on the left if we need it, or to come off the bench, or whatever. And he's got an eye for a goal, which, to be fair, during their time in the Premier League, all those other number 10s have had. But he is, without doubt, the guy in form. Would I swap him for any other number 10 in the Premier League? Probably not. The only person I'd consider it for would be someone like, obviously, Bellingham, who's different levels to most of the Premier League. So it is insane that he's not picked it. But my concern is there another squad worth looking at before the World Cup?
I do want to talk a little bit about Morgan Gibbs-White's goals on Sunday. They were all great in their own right, but very quickly, I want each of us to say which was their favourite goal and why. And whilst you're talking, Mollo, you might as well carry on and give your favourite first.
I'm going to give background to this one because you might have seen it, Kate, where you were sitting. But 5 minutes before the goal, Hutchinson had a little run down the line and he stopped, turned back, and everyone was like, take your man on, and he turned back, passed it back, and quite a few voices in A Block's frustration with the whole game seemed to come out at that point, and they gave him quite a bit of abuse. And he actually turned around to A Block and went like that, as if to say, calm down. I don't know if it was calm down or shut up, to be fair. I thought, whoa, that's risky. And people are like, who's he think it is? Who do you think it is? For the next 5 minutes, he seemed to be popping up everywhere. And he must have kind of known, right, I'm going to show you whatever. And then the goal, run down the line, beat his man, little dink with his right foot, which is one of the signs of recently. And then a lovely, beautiful finish at the back, or just beyond the back post, finished the job off. So for me, in context, it was that one, plus the relief of going ahead. Because that was a go-ahead goal, wasn't it? So, and it was the one I celebrated the most because I wasn't so sure about the first one. I was thinking, oh, VAR might have snapped or whatever. Because there's no doubt about that one. So for me, context, going ahead, the whole Hutchinson thing, and I'm really pleased he did what he did and sort of showed he could back it up. So, and got confidence and borderline arrogance that we need. So that one.
Great stuff. Chelsea, what about yours? What's your favourite?
Well, I did do on our little poll that we put on our WhatsApp group. I did put the second goal. I absolutely love a sexy little volley. Don't get me wrong. However, the third goal. I don't know when Yatesy became a right winger. I've no idea where he pulled that out of the bag from, but his precision cross that he gave in and the beautiful header from Gibbs-White just going to the top left. Looking at the whole of how it panned out, I'd have to go with the third goal. I mean, and for the hat-trick, imagine if only it was a right foot, left foot and a header. That would have been a perfect hat-trick. But, he can get away with it this time.
Yeah, absolutely. Good choice. And Kate, what was your favourite of the three?
Yeah, I have to say, I would agree with Chelsea. The third one, the assist from Yates, was absolutely brilliant. And I think it's been discussed already that it almost seemed to go in slow motion from when it left his head to when it actually landed in the goal. And you had long enough to think, is this going in or is it just going round the post? And then to see it go and him complete that hat-trick was just another one of those beautiful moments as a Forest fan where you go absolutely mad with excitement, happiness, relief, all of those things, because you knew then the 3 points were definitely ours. And to see him do that was amazing. And he came and he did his 1, 2, 3 thing, didn't he? And it was just like, oh, what a guy.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for the third one as well, if only because you can't disagree with the second one, and his technique was perfect to volley that one in. But the header from around about the penalty spot, kind of the way he craned his neck to get the header, probably in the only place in the goal that he would have been able to score. And it was almost like the City ground held its breath, didn't it, as the ball was looping through the air. And it was only a case of, well, if it's on target, it's going in. So, and it was, thankfully, but it sealed the points, it sealed the win. Technically, it was a very good goal. We know he's a good header of the ball anyway, but to score from there in that way was just something special and quite remarkable, I thought. So that's got my vote. And I wanted to continue the conversation around Gibbs-White and his goals, because I did a bit of research today during my lunch hour, and I was quite curious to know how many goals he'd scored in the Premier League now, and he's up to 29, and Chris Wood is on 37. And you've got to think, I started to ask myself the question, we don't know what's going to happen to Gibbs-White in the future in his career and stuff, and how long he's going to be at Forest. And you do think, can he overtake Chris Wood and become the all-time Premier League goal scorer for Forest? Because he's heading in the right direction. He's only 8 behind. I know Chris Wood has started to play again, but at the moment he doesn't look like scoring, where Gibbs-White, I'm not saying he's going to get another 8 before the end of the season, but he could, by the end of the season, get a lot closer than it is now, and who knows what's going to happen next season, whether Chris Wood is going to rediscover his goal scoring form or not, or what happens with Gibbs-White, we don't know. But I want to ask you guys, can Gibbs-White become Forest's all-time scorer? We'll start with you, Mollo.
I very much hope so, because that means he's going to be with us for another year or two at least, because he's put himself on Tuchel's radar, we discussed, but quite clearly the consistency of what he's done is going to put him on other people's radars. But short answer, yes, if he stays another year or two.
What about you, Kate and Chelsea? Do you hope he does it? Because if he does, it means Forest are doing well as well, surely.
Oh.
Yeah, absolutely. And the rate he's going, it's a perfectly legitimate question to ask, isn't it? I mean, 3 more hat-tricks and he's there. So, let's see what we got. Sunderland, yeah, Chelsea. Yeah, we could do that. Newcastle at home. What do you reckon? But no, what a great, positive, brilliant question to be asking, given how many negatives there've been about this season. To pull a stat like that out and say, look at this guy, is absolutely on fire for us, and I would absolutely champion him to become that person. And I very much hope that he will stay with us. And at the moment, it feels like he's where he wants to be, which gives me confidence that he certainly will do, providing we stay up.
You could say Chelsea's a magnificent goal wizard, can't you, at the moment?
He most definitely is.
Sorry, I didn't mean to give you the giggles, but
I know I'm always laughing on it.
That's good.
But the thing is, with Gibbs-White, I mean, with some players, they come in and they play for Forest, whereas some players come in and they become Forest. And with Gibbs-White, he has definitely become Forest. He's become the family. He's become part of the furniture at this point. And you can just tell, like Kate said, he just seems just comfortable at our club, and he does. And he's an outstanding football player, and you cannot take that away from him. And you can tell he wants to play for us, and his passion, his desire, his want, he's like a one-man band on that pitch. And God, I hope that we, obviously, I hope we stay up. I'm not like tempting fate here or anything. I hope we stay up, and I so hope he stays with us at least another season, because he's brilliant, and everybody loves him.
Yeah, they do. I do want to, time's kicking on, I do want to cover a few other things though, and one of those things being injuries. Yeah, it was a great result, but it was tainted by the news that's come out since then, that Callum Hudson-Odoi is going to miss the rest of the season, so we wish him well and a speedy recovery in time for next season. Murillo has got yet another injury. That's twice in a week he's been taken off. Are the games, Mollo, catching up with Murillo a little bit in terms of, that's quite a few times now he's been picking up little niggles, little injuries. Thankfully, he returned on Sunday after the Europa League game, but the way he was walking after the game didn't look too convincing, didn't it, in terms of him being fit for Sunderland next week? We'll see, of course, we don't know, but is there a little concern there? And following on from that question, Mollo, it looks like we've got something. We touched on it last week, and Jack Cunha again. I'd like to see him, if Murillo is out, now is the time to see what Jack Cunha has got to pit him against some better opposition on a regular basis, on the assumption that he would be the natural replacement for Murillo.
Yeah, I mean, you've hit the nail on the head there. How big is the injury? I think it's massive. You know my views that he's our insurance policy at the back. He's the sort of Des Walker of the modern generation, isn't he? And he's had a bit of criticism because his passing hasn't been blob on, but really we can't not miss him because he's one of the best centre backs in the Premier League. He's all action, which is why he's going to pick up injuries. He's a bit bionic and sometimes perhaps plays through injuries he shouldn't, which, as not to go back to last week there, but you know, he sometimes you think get yourself off, or if you've picked up that knock, don't try and run it off. And then add to that what you're saying about Jay Cunha. He's 20 years old apparently still. I thought he was a bit older than that. So it's a big ask over a long period of time, but maybe for the 3 or 4 games in the league and the 3, hopefully, games in the Europa, maybe he can keep going like he does. But he's very, very young and raw. And he looked it in the past, but in the last, since he came back into the team a couple of months back and then post-injury, he really looks the part now, doesn't he? I think we might have yet another mega gem on our hands. And I mean, we talked about last week the 2 Brazilians together in the future if Milenkovic moves on or retires or whatever. But in reality, I'd be a lot happier if we had Murillo playing for us the rest of the season. But next man up, and he's a super talented next man up.
Yeah, absolutely. The other player I want to talk about is, we've mentioned Callum Hudson-Odoi being out, Kate, and Bakwa came in for him against Burnley, and obviously we said earlier didn't cover himself in glory. Who else do you see playing there? Dan N'Doye is the other option, or is it Dominguez? And because I wouldn't start Bakwa now. I think he's kind of burnt his bridges there for a start, certainly for the rest of this season. But what would you look to do at that position now Hudson-Odoi's out?
I think I'd feel more comfortable with Dominguez than I would with Dan N'Doye at the moment. The next man up thing is really good if there's one that's willing to fight for that position, isn't it? And I think of those 2 options, that's Dominguez for me rather than Dan N'Doye. But that being said, I think we're probably more likely to see Dan N'Doye than we are Dominguez. But hopefully a mixture of the 2. And I agree that I wouldn't start Bakwa. Again, I don't necessarily think that means that he won't. He is the most obvious replacement. Callum may not have had his best season so far this season, but he still shouldn't underestimate what a loss that is for us. And the fact that I'm umming and ahhing over what the best option is speaks volumes, really, and that there isn't anything that's obvious and that makes you feel hugely comfortable. So, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it remains to be... Sorry, go on, Chelsea.
No, I was saying the thing is with Dominguez, he's familiar, isn't he? And that's sort of who we know. And obviously, you know, he does tend to actually keep himself on side as well, which is always very good, rather than N'Doye. So, but yeah, I agree with you, Kate. I reckon he'll start, you know, kind of switching between the 2, really.
I don't think he'll do either.
No?
What do you think he'll do, Mollo?
He'll start the game the way we finished it, I think, because we know what a great player Morgan Gibbs-White is. We know he's going to be our number 10 for many years to come, but he's the sort of guy that will probably say, do you know what, it worked well, I got a hat-trick, and if it helps for the greater good, we know he's got the work rate, we know he'll cause trouble down that left-hand side in a totally different way, and he won't keep the ball in the same way Hudson-Odoi does, but he'll make things happen. And it also means when the ball's going down the right-hand side, we know there's a potential goal threat that no other winger we've got or had for some time has got. He's very much a totally different player, but it's a bit like when Jono was playing wide. He had goals in him, didn't he? For us, not for anyone else that we've seen now, but at the moment. So for me, I think, especially against Sunderland, who are a hard-working side, I'd probably favour that he's probably going to go with the team that kind of turned it around second half. That would be my sort of guess, really.
All right, we'll talk about Sunderland in a moment, but I think it's high time we had a little bit of a quiz, Kate.
Okay, all right. So another thing that was a little bit special about Sunday was, of course, the return of Joe Worrell and those lovely shots of Joe Worrell, Ryan Yates and Zach Abbott all walking together as our academy lads.
Football friends!
Yeah. Indeed. So the quiz question this year, and I've tried to keep it simple, although there is a possibility to earn bonus points, is how many years have there been an academy member in our starting squad? So that's your question, and you can get bonus points if you can get close to how many games, but I'm going for how many years.
I was just going to get my calculator out. So, right,
Yeah.
well, let's all ponder on that one. In the meantime, Chelsea, did you want to give an FPL update as well? Because it's a massive double game week this week, so plenty of action to go through from an
Yes.
FPL perspective.
Yes, that's double game week, which I totally didn't realise how bad is that of me. God. But so, and I would like to just say to our listeners, I said in the chat earlier, I said, I'll just do, because we've still got quite a few games left, I'll do the FPL update next time. Simon was like, nah, do a part one. So there's me getting everyone's where they are and writing them all down. I was like, I know why Simon wanted me to do an FPL update this week.
I don't know what you're talking about, Chelsea.
Well, I'm going to tell you why, listeners, because Simon is now up to 4th place, and you played your bench boost, Simon. And I see what you did there. All bar one of your players are all playing in a double game week. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, Simon Myers is already on 1 point so far. And he still has all bar one of his players to play another game.
Yeah, that's
very well.
Good plan. That's called planning, Chelsea. You know, you pick your wild card the previous week and you select everybody on a double, bar Fernandes from Man United, and then you play your bench boost.
Simon, I don't know whether to punch you or hug you at this point. I'm like, no, damn your wizardry, and then I'm like, yeah, but well done, well done for that. Mollo, you've gone down to 14th place with 34. But did you update anything? You're on mute, Mollo. Oh.
Games and everything that's been going on, and then of course constantly on Sky Scanner sorting out flights to Birmingham, to potentially to Istanbul and all that malarkey. So yeah, I've been too busy.
We'll forgive you, Mollo. We'll forgive you.
Do I need to delete a little bit from the episode there about booking flights to Istanbul?
They're all cancelable. They're all refundable, bar the first bit of it, which is only 30 quid on Easy Ryanair. So not to worry.
Well, as you're in 14th place, Mollo, still, I'm 2 behind you. I've stayed in 16th place. I'm creeping, Mollo. I've got 42 points so far, and I'm really annoyed with myself. I done a risk. It didn't pay off. I triple capped. I was torn between Haaland and Semenyo, and I done Semenyo because I thought, oh god, Haaland's in a bit of a drought, isn't he? And I was like, damn it. So I wish I'd done Haaland, but you know, they've still got another game, so Semenyo can pull it back. And Kate, like I said before, I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed. You're now down to 26th place, Kate. Just like, by this point I do not care. You've got 39 points, Kate. I do just want to have a little look at our leaderboard as well, because I would just like to say my cousin is still on the top with overall 1,990 points, Mr. Jack Carroll, my cousin, and he has triple captained Palmer of all people. Very strange. That's because he's a Chelsea fan, that's why. He's trying to stay loyal, but that's not paying off. But yeah, he scored 45 points so far, but overall, like 1,990. To be fair though, Simon, you're only 81 points behind him.
I have news for you on that, Chelsea. The gap may have closed tonight because...
Has it?
As we record right now, Hinshelwood has just scored for Brighton, and I have him in my team.
Oh,
and Brighton have got a clean sheet, and I've got 2 Brighton defenders. So,
of course you do, Simon.
Going back to last week's show, touch wood, that will carry on.
Do you have some kind of crystal ball when it comes to FPL? I don't understand this witchcraft, dear. But yeah, congratulations, Simon. I think we've all gathered and accepted that you're going to win our little mini league of us 4.
Well, but you never know.
Well, good luck to everybody for the rest of the games, and yeah, I hope me, Mollo and Kate seem to go up the leaderboard.
I need to change my team. Change my team.
Yeah, thanks.
Drop all these
anything
Arsenal
else?
Defenders that have bottled it.
Anything else, Chelsea on FPL?
No, that's the update, and I will give you a full update of this game week next week.
Okay, cool. Thanks for that. Right, let's move very quickly on to Sunderland on Friday night. We won't do a full-blown preview because we've been going for quite a while. But as it stands right now, guys, Forest, according to the Opta analytics, Forest have a 4.38% chance of being relegated. So, that, admittedly, the win over Burnley did give them a good boost in their survival hopes for sure. And they sit currently 16th on 36 points. They play early on Friday, of course, and again, touch wood, a win there would draw them level with Leeds on 39 points. And the way Leeds are playing at the moment, you'd like to think that they're probably now going to be safe on 39. So if Forest can get there too, there's a real strong possibility that 39 points will be enough. But it is a tricky game, isn't it? Away, it's not going to be easy. It's not Burnley. Sunderland have done really well. They're currently in 11th place on 46 points. Probably exceeded everybody's expectations, including their own, I would imagine. So they're riding a crest of a wave at the minute. They haven't got any realistic opportunity to reach Europe, or maybe they have. I don't know. Maybe they've still got something to play for. But it's going to be a really, really hard game. The carrot is there for Forest, though, isn't it, Kate? To almost put them over the line, isn't it? There's 6 days between Sunderland and Villa as well, so plenty of time for rest and recuperation. What are your early thoughts on Sunderland away?
I've been looking forward to Sunderland away all season because it's a ground that I've never been to. So I'm very excited to take a new ground off my list. I think the Sunderland fans are brilliant, so I know it will be a cracking atmosphere, which I'm always excited for. I understand the mathematics around thinking if we can get this win, it practically puts us safe, but it is a tough ask. Sunderland are fighters. Look at their last game against Villa. You know, I mean, you would have said we're not capable of scoring 4 goals in a game, but as it turns out, we are. But I still think it's a very, very tough ask. And if I am coming home from Sunderland on Friday night with a point, I will be a very, very happy woman. So, as I've said loads of times before, of course I want the 3 points. I do think it's possible. I always think it's possible, but I think it's very, very tough. So if we can get anything out of that game, then I think that is massive for us as a team, for our survival chances, and against, you know, the surprise package of the Premier League this season. So I think I understand the mathematics. I'd love the 3 points, but let's not go into this game underestimating them in any way, shape or form. Anything we can get from this fixture is brilliant. Yeah,
Mollo, you typically always say, let's keep a clean sheet first, and that's imperative for this game, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. I think I echo what you say there, Kate. It's possible, but fairly improbable it will go up there and take 3 points. Not to say it can't happen. I think 2 things need to happen, and you've mentioned we need to defend very, very well. Can we do it without Murillo there? Remains to be seen. Defend the way we have done traditionally against, because it's one thing keeping it tight in that second half and dominating against Burnley, but as you said, Sunderland are a different animal. Who would have thought last summer that we'd be going into a game against Sunderland as underdogs, which may suit us for that all-important point? Goes back to what I said about 6 or 7 weeks ago. I felt we could draw our way to safety with the occasional win here and there. I assume there'd be more losses along the way, and there hasn't been, so that's magnificent too. You know, we're realistically probably 2 or 3 points are likely to keep us safe. We've got 5 games to find those points. Let's get the first one as early as possible, at least up at Sunderland. I'd love that so much. Tough, but let's hope so.
Well, Tim Sherwood doesn't think Forest are going to get the points they need.
Do you know what? Can I just say, I feel for that guy, because if that would have been Dawson, if that was Dawson talking about Forest or Andy Reid or something, we'd all be going, yeah. But he qualified at the end by saying, I've got my lily white glasses on. I know he's not. I don't like him in any way, shape or form. But I would want an ex-Forest player that cared about our club to speak like that and say, okay, I might have my red glasses on. At least he was honest, and you know, people take it all so seriously, that stuff. It wasn't a real prediction, was it? You could tell from the way he spoke or what he said at the end. And the way he spoke about Morgan Gibbs-White, There's more of frustration about their board being incapable of signing good players, and the irony that the two number 10s they thought they'd signed both scored hat-tricks this season against them.
For the record, Chelsea, Spurs this week have got Wolves away, Leeds have got Bournemouth away, and West Ham have got Everton away. So Leeds and West Ham in particular have got difficult fixtures. Spurs, you think, if they can't beat Wolves away, they're going to go down.
They will, though, won't they?
You'd have thought so. Wolves seem to have gone right off the boil after showing a bit of form, and they're now officially down anyway. So Wolves are almost on the beach, and they've only got a bit of spoiler to play. So let's hope they raise the game for that. But what do you think of the other games? It's looking like a couple of tricky ones for Leeds and West Ham.
Yeah, I've always said as long as we keep matching them, then that's all that we can do really. I definitely think that Spurs will beat Wolves. I've got no doubt in my mind about that really, and I've always said I wouldn't be at all surprised if Spurs randomly decide to pull it out of the bag with some of the games that are left. That wouldn't surprise me at all. But who did you say that Leeds have got? Sorry, I was just trying to.
Leeds are playing Bournemouth.
And playing Bournemouth away. Yeah, see, that's a tricky one to tell. I wouldn't be surprised if a draw comes out of that. But again, we've just got to keep matching them. I've always said I reckon to stay up, I reckon that'll be like about 39 points. That's what I say.
I should clarify. It's FA Cup semi-final weekend, I believe. So Leeds are not playing Bournemouth this weekend. They are moving that game to game week 36, I believe. So
double points.
Leeds still have Bournemouth to play away, but It's not this weekend.
Can I just say as well that I believe that Spurs don't have a great record at Molineux, and I am aware I say that with them already being relegated. But it's not a foregone conclusion, and I don't always think that having relegation confirmed means you fall off the side of the earth. Sometimes it gives them the freedom to go, let's just have at it, because if there's another team that's in similar form to us in the league, it's Tottenham. So, I will be hoping that Wolves can do us a little bit of a favour, and hoping that Spurs continue the form that I am very much enjoying watching them play at the moment.
I talked about that carrot being in front of Forest, and that carrot is by getting a win, they're 8 points ahead of Spurs, which is absolutely massive given the way Forest are playing and the way Spurs are playing. That means, with the goal difference included, Spurs have got to win 3 more games than Forest in their remaining 5, which is going to be a really, really tall order. So that's the carrot I was talking about earlier in terms of, this is what's dangling in front of Forest when they kick off on Friday night.
Yeah,
That's a lot of pressure for Spurs.
In reality, though, you look at Spurs when they played Brighton, and despite there's 2 ways of looking at that, wasn't there? They still didn't win a home game. I almost wish the Wolves game was at Spurs, because the pressure's been off Wolves for months now, hasn't it? And they've been absolutely garbage by that little run. They were garbage against Leeds. I watched some of that in the hope they might get something. And my concern, this is a legitimate concern, is once Spurs do win one game, which I pray isn't until they get into the Championship, it releases the valve, it uncorks the sort of pressure, and there's nothing then to it'll be like, right, finally. And it happens all the time in football, doesn't it? And I'm not suggesting they're going to win 5 out of 5 or anything like that, but they're not as bad a team as they've looked, and they didn't look bad against Brighton, to be fair. I would love it so much if they go back into their shell, and I'm hoping their brittle confidence has been absolutely shattered by what happened in the last minute of that game against Brighton, because if they'd have won that, it'd be a very different mentality going up to Wolves, wouldn't it? But imagine if Wolves can get a draw or something. Oh, anyway, but I just can't see it, to be fair.
Well, let's keep all fingers crossed both Friday and across the weekend that the results continue to fall our way. So we're now approaching the end of the show. We've been talking for nearly an hour, so let's finish off, Kate, with your quiz. Would you like to remind everyone of the question, please?
So it's for how many years have Forest had an academy player in their starting squad? Not their starting squad, in their matchday squad.
Yeah, this kind of stat is really, really interesting. I love these kind of stats because I know The Athletic wrote an article on it a year or two ago, Daniel Taylor wrote a really special article around how this was an important focus for Forest, and you always wonder, will it come to an end at some point? And I don't believe it has. It's still ticking along. So my guess for that, Kate, is probably it must be reaching 19, 20 years. As that's my guess, I think.
Did you say 19 or 20?
Yeah, yeah. That's kind of where I'm thinking, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's longer.
Okay.
Obviously,
Chelsea?
I was going more like. See, I was thinking a bit less than you. So I was going to say about. I'll go 18. I was going to say more, sort of a bit less. I'd say.
Mollo?
Maybe even 25. Maybe.
I've got two figures in my head. I'm only allowed to choose one, but I'll give you my thinking. One is a figure I've heard. Now, it might be wrong, and it might sounds awful. Relate to Man United. I'm going 79 years.
No, yeah.
But I'm also thinking Forest. Yes, yeah, I'm going 79.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, it's around that figure. Thinking
Because
about
that's the
it,
end
it's,
of World
Is it?
War One, and I think in World War One, sorry, World War Two, not World War One, World War Two, and in World War Two there was matches, and just after, and there was a lot of guest players, so it wouldn't necessarily be homegrown players. I'm going 79 years. It could even be longer.
Okay.
it could even be longer. Yeah, because I remember when Daniel Taylor wrote that article, he did reference Man United as being the other team with this kind of proud record, and I'd miscalculated. I did
I think it's hit
7,000.
80.
Yeah, I did. I think it was around. Is it around 7,000 games or something ridiculous now? You may have the numbers, Kate. Please share.
God, I'm dying to know now.
So, we have had a youth team product in the squad since October 1941.
Wow.
So 85
Jeez.
years
Yeah.
we've
Incredible.
had one in our squad. Now, the numbers are tricky because all I can find is the stat from when that article was written in The Athletic, and then it was reposted in the New York Times, I believe. So I've added to what it was 2 sets of fixtures for the Premier League.
Yeah.
But I didn't have time to go and look at all the individual cup games as well, which I do think it includes. So we're around 4,155 games, I believe.
In a row as well.
Basically, I was right.
So you were certainly the closest.
because-
yeah.
Yeah.
So it was in
No,
1941.
In
Yeah.
I didn't
World War
say
Two, they
18.
were unofficial games with nobody being registered. It was just guest players that were stationed nearby. And we won the league in the war in an unofficial league, ironically. But there we go.
I
Sorry.
didn't say
Stats on.
18.
Yeah.
Right, listeners, everyone, you're going to have to go back and re-listen or re-watch just to check whether Chelsea actually did say 80 or not, or whether she's been eating too many sausage rolls.
I so said 80. Right?
Right. Right, that brings us to the close. Just hit the hour mark. Chelsea, anything final from you before we finish?
No, just bring on Sunderland. Can't underestimate them, but Core coming away with a point from the dark horse of the Premier League this season would be brilliant.
It would. Mollo, anything from you?
No, just something that was referenced in the last show. I don't want to go on about it. Just massive props and thoughts still with what a character Elliot Anderson is.
Yeah.
To go through what he's gone through, to have what happened before the game as well, and then come out and still play superbly on the whole.
Yeah, full credit to him and his family. We should have mentioned it at the top of the show, so apologies for that. But it was very moving at the start and an excellent tribute to his mother. And he certainly played his hearts out as well. And there may have even been a tear in Elliot Anderson's eye, and the whole squad were around him. And that feeling of togetherness again, wasn't it, that was clearly on display. So
Yeah, when they got his shirt, didn't they, and held it up to A block. It was very nice.
Yeah, great to see that support for Elliot Anderson and his family, of course. But anything final from you then, Kate?
No, just on we go. On we go. And let's continue this form in the team, and let's continue the excellent support that we've been showing, because it was another great atmosphere on Sunday. Even when we weren't doing great, there was still enough noise, and then obviously by the end, limbs. So yeah, on we go.
Absolutely. Right, that's it. So we'll be back with you again most likely next week to review the Sunderland game and look forward to our first European semi-final in 42 years. So what a week that could be next week. Incidentally, Mollo, I got my tickets today for that Villa game, and I mentioned in the chat, didn't I? I'm actually going to be sat almost to the same position where I sat for the last European semi-final against Anderlecht in 1984. So I'm hoping omens are going to play a part in the overall result there.
Take whatever we can get. Keep those lucky pants on.
But hopefully, listeners and viewers, if all goes according to plan this week, we should now be showing as a video and audio podcast on Spotify, audio on all the other platforms, including YouTube, where the video is also now will be up as well. So check us out on Spotify video to see us, to watch the show. So thanks again for listening and for watching, and we'll speak to you again real soon.